So the leaks for the first chapter of Boruto's second part, Two Blue Vortex, well, have leaked. And these leaks, well, I don't know, it's weird calling them leaks because it's not even a leak. It's literally just the Shonen Jump magazine gets released way before the Shonen Jump manga gets uploaded to the app and translated. It's like a difference of 4 days. It's not like we broke into the White House and we're like, we got chapter 1 of Two Blue Vortex. It's just like a magazine was widely distributed all throughout Japan and some people took photos. Regardless, photos in fan translations of the first chapter of Two Blue Vortex have been released. And thus we've now received a whole lot of answers to questions that have been burning holes in us for 4 months. And while this video isn't going to be about me talking about chapter 1, we'll do that in a later video when the actual English version of the manga drops, and that way we have better assets and I actually know what I'm talking about. Because I don't know, do I trust these fan translations? Not really, but just like cavemen tens of thousands of years ago, a picture can tell a pretty compelling story, regardless of the language of the blurb next to it. And unfortunately for me, there's a couple of pictures and a couple of fan translated blurbs that disprove some of my more popular theories. See, as you may or may not know, we post tons of Boruto and Naruto theories on this page. They're fun. It's a brain exercise to see how well I understand Naruto and if I can make a plot line seem compelling with actual factual evidence. They're one of my favorite types of videos to make. But because of that, like a leader of a cult with a doomsday date, I kinda put my neck out on the line. And while more than 50% of the time my theories are correct, occasionally they're not. And while I've done self-congratulatory laps around my office dozens of times because one of my theories was 100% correct, I've never done a video talking about the theories that I kind of missed on. And since the release of the chapter 1 of Boruto, something that I've theorized heavily about, has disproved a couple of theories I had about the future of Boruto, I figured now is probably the best ever time to look back at all of the theories I just didn't nail. 1, because a lot of them are relatively minor, and 2, because it's kind of a symbol of how far I've come in terms of my content creation ability and my ability to do research. Because back in the day, I was just shooting from the hip. And sometimes that didn't lead to the soundest of theories. So if you're one of the people who hate watches me, or just somebody who wants to watch me admit that I was wrong, you're gonna love today's video. And if you want to take a walk down memory lane with me and see how far we've come in our content creation career in under 2 years, then you're also gonna love this video. There's a little bit in it for everybody. But before I start dismantling my own credibility in the anime space, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. And if you feel as though I am a credible source for all your anime information, then you're gonna love my other channel, The Weeb Commander, where instead of talking about Naruto and Boruto, I talk all of their anime. And if you want to see me be my least credible self, then you're gonna love my anime podcast, Otaku's Anonymous, where me and Danny Mata break down everything that happened in anime this week. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. But before we get into all that, guys, today we gotta talk about our favorite recurring sponsor to the page, HelloFresh. Fall is right around the corner, and with summer coming to a close, unfortunately, a lot of our schedules start to pick back up. HelloFresh is here to help you plan for the busy season, while making sure that you always have tasty dishes delivered directly to your door. All you have to do is choose your meals, wait for them to get delivered, kick back and relax, and enjoy the last couple of days of summer. Because this fall, we got places to be, we got things to do. And one of the places that we don't need to be nearly as often is the grocery store, more specifically in a line, which is why I'm leaving the meal planning and the grocery prep to HelloFresh. They hooked me up with pre-portioned ingredients and step-by-step instructions on how to make delicious meals, which saves me time and more than enough hassle. And for my parents out there, I know that this applies to you more than anybody. There's enough back-to-school shopping and planning to make anybody go insane. So cut down on your stress by ordering pre-portioned and planned out meals. Listen, a large amount of my day keeps me constrained to this very chair, which means that when I get up, I don't want to worry about what I'm eating for dinner. HelloFresh not only gives me security in knowing that I have food in the fridge that I'm gonna cook and make delicious, but also saves me time and effort making sure I don't have to head to the grocery store, which means more time with you, my dogs, or Dorothy. But there's a big difference between talking about how delicious a meal is and showing. So let's go pop down to my kitchen.
Now today we're making spicy Peruvian chicken, which is not only delicious, but only comes in at 610 calories for those trying to watch their macros.
Now, HelloFresh has taught me everything that I know about cooking, which has allowed for me to make some incredibly delicious meals over the years. And it's accomplished all of this by not only introducing me to new flavors and widening my palate, but also teaching me the applicable skills to make delicious meals.
And this meal right here is definitely one of them. Let's give it a taste. I am a good cook.
So what are you guys waiting for? Go to HelloFresh.com and use code NCHammer2350 for 50% off your first order and free shipping. Yes, that's HelloFresh.com and code NCHammer2350 for 50% off your checkout today and free shipping. Or simply follow the link in my description. What are you guys waiting for? It's time that we save time and eat better. So, theories. We all enjoy them. And when it comes to content on this page, they usually do the best out of anything that I post. Because obviously, more people want to hear about the possibility of Sasuke regaining Rinnegan, or Sarada getting the world's strongest Susanoo, or Naruto becoming the Sage of Six Paths than hearing about the life story of some background character that I find compelling. And there's nothing wrong with that. I enjoy telling these hypothetical stories based off as much evidence that I can gather as telling backstories about characters that I find compelling. So long as I'm talking about anime, I'm happy. However, the unfortunate reality about making theory videos is that sometimes you can be proven wrong. So while I sit here and give you a large introspective look into the life of Inoki, there's nowhere that I can be proven wrong. I mean, sure, you can disagree with some of the conclusions that I came to, but that doesn't make me wrong. If I say that Inoki is supposed to act as a physical and symbolic representation of relations between ninja villages for the entirety of Naruto's run, you can disagree with that, but doesn't make my point invalid. However, if I say something like Sarada will awaken 4 Sharingan, and then she never does that, I'm wrong. Now, fortunately, the majority of the theories that we create are about Naruto, which is over, so for all intents and purposes, they can't be proven wrong. Well, I guess they could be proven a little bit wrong if the information I used wasn't correct. But the door never definitively closes on a Naruto theory because there's no new information coming out from the Naruto universe. I mean, there actually is, that's kind of a lie because we just got the Minato manga and we're getting 4 additional episodes actually pretty soon here. So who knows, maybe this video could get longer one day. So a lot of the really risky theories that I make are Boruto theories, because Boruto is still ongoing, which means at any point, any month when Boruto is released, my theory could be disproven like that, which would be more intimidating if I wasn't usually correct. But I've been throwing a lot of theories at the beginning of Boruto's second part, like 6 or 7 separate theories. Basically, I've been theorizing about the future of every single important character in the Boruto universe. I theorized that Boruto during the time skip mastered the Jogan. I theorized that Sarada's MS will give her a healing ability and a Genjutsu ability that allows her to battle against Ada. I theorized that Sasuke might already be dead. I theorized that Himawari will eventually awaken the Tensegan, and so on and so forth. I'm spread incredibly thin. And while not all of my theories have been disproven, a couple have. See, one of the theories that I had about the future of Boruto wasn't all that important, but it was still something that I was theorizing. See, obviously, with Naruto and Hinata being sealed away in the Daikoku-ten by Kawaki, Naruto isn't around to fulfill his purpose as the 7th Hokage. Now, the entire village believes that Naruto died at the hands of Boruto because Ada brainwashed the entire world, which means that the only people who know that Naruto and Hinata aren't actually dead are Kawaki, Boruto, maybe Sarada, Ada, and maybe a few else. Sprinkle Daemon in there. But with the death of a Hokage, obviously we need an 8th Hokage. And the identity of that Hokage was a massive talking point when Naruto got sealed away. People believe that it could be anybody from Konohamaru to Sakura to Kakashi stepping back up because he was the 6th Hokage. Well, some people believe that Shikamaru as Naruto's Hokage assistant would be the logical choice. And while I explored the possibilities of all 4 of these options, saying that Shikamaru, Kakashi, and Sakura probably had somewhat equal chances to become the 8th Hokage, pretty much the only person that I ruled out in totality was Konohamaru. He just didn't have enough feats. And he's also very young, and he didn't fight in the 4th Great Shinobi World War, so really nothing was shaking his way. Now, I didn't believe that Sakura would actually become the 8th Hokage, not because I don't believe that she's deserving, she is, but because of who's writing the story. And thus, we were really left with 2 options, Kakashi and Shikamaru. Now, while I fully believed that Shikamaru was a valid choice for the 8th Hokage, as Shikamaru as the Hokage's aide pretty much does the majority of the Hokage work already and is massively familiarized with it, not to mention that Naruto's not the first person that Shikamaru's been the Hokage's aide to, as he was also heavily involved in Kakashi's Hokage dumb. And Shikamaru is also the head of the Shinobi Alliance, which is the alliance that binds together the 5 major villages. I believed that genuinely it would make more sense if Kakashi stepped back up as the 8th Hokage, because we've seen a precedent for this. When Minato died early into his term as 3rd Hokage, obviously Hiruzen, who was still present in the village, stepped up as the 4th Hokage, sort of. He was the 3rd Hokage, but now again. And this makes sense. If there's somebody in your village heavily familiarized with the role of being Hokage, why wouldn't we hand off the vacant spot to them? Well, obviously Shikamaru was heavily involved in both Kakashi and Naruto's Hokage dumbs, there's gotta be a better word. It's not like he was ever actually the Hokage, and thus heading into chapter 1 of Two Blue Vortex, I figured that Kakashi stepping back up as Hokage was a shoo-in. And boy oh boy, was I wrong. Because wouldn't you know it, ladies and gentlemen, our 8th Hokage is none other than Shikamaru Nara, which is actually kind of crazy because Shikamaru was our first ever Hokage to not come from a wildly nepotistic tree. Hashirama and Tobirama were brothers. Both of them trained Hiruzen. Hiruzen trained Jiraiya, who trained Minato. Minato trained Kakashi. Minato was Naruto's father, and all of them are related. Oh, I forgot Tsunade. And Tsunade was Hashirama's granddaughter, as well as a student of Hiruzen. Shikamaru was the first ever Hokage to not be related to or be trained by a previous Hokage. So good job breaking the nepotistic cycle. He's the Jimmy Carter of Hokages. And thus, with just the photo of Shikamaru standing in a Hokage cloak, my theory was proved incorrect. But it's not like I didn't acknowledge the fact that Shikamaru could have been the 8th Hokage, just not the direction that I figured the Kishimoto would go in. However, it does pose a somewhat interesting possibility. See, Shikamaru being chosen to be Hokage over Kakashi makes me curious about what Kakashi's doing, because obviously the role was more likely than not proposed to Kakashi. And Shikamaru understands the amount of work that being the Hokage requires. And while Kakashi never loved the role of Hokage, I would argue that Shikamaru probably loves it less. So it's probably a battle of wills between two people trying to see who wanted it less. But now that Kakashi is very decidedly not tied up in being the Hokage, I'm interested to see what he does in Two Blue Vortex. As we've seen in both his light novel Kakashi Retsudan and in his battle against Kashin Koji, that he's still got it. Probably more than he ever had it in actuality. So there is a possibility that Shikamaru was actually chosen to be Hokage because he definitely does not still have it. And therefore it was decided that his political ability and intellect would be best suited as the Hokage, where he would be away from the battlefield. And Kakashi, who's now probably stronger than he was in the war arc minus DMS, is probably better suited being out in the field. But all of this is an incredibly long-winded way of me saying I was wrong. But we're not done yet! In the early days of this page, when I didn't understand how to talk fast or light my face or have a hairline, I made a little theory video speculating that Mitsuki was actually part Otsutsuki, which has been a very popular theory amongst the Boruto fanbase for a long time. And honestly, it kind of felt like a layup. There was too many similarities to ignore. Mitsuki's Snake Sage chakra mode looks exactly like Toneri's Tenseigan chakra mode. Mitsuki very obviously is not a one-to-one copy of Orochimaru because he doesn't look like Orochimaru, meaning that Orochimaru would have to splice in somebody else's DNA in order to make Mitsuki stronger than him in order to sustain Snake Sage mode, because mind you, that's the reason that Mitsuki was created in the first place, and Mitsuki, like his parent and like the Otsutsukis, has white skin. Tie all that into the fact that Mitsuki's also obsessed with the moon where Toneri lives, and it seems fairly obvious that Mitsuki is actually half Toneri. However, there is a slight problem with that theory, and as it's a theory that I've talked about at length, I feel as though it's probably up to me to address the problem with that theory. See, the problem with the theory is that Mitsuki was affected by Ada's charm, and we know canonically that the Otsutskis can't be affected by Ada's charm Shinjutsu. But not only was Mitsuki affected by Ada's charm when he first met her, grasping at his chest and asking what this feeling was, but also Mitsuki was affected by the worldwide brainwashing that made everybody believe that Boruto killed Naruto. And as that brainwashing switched in Mitsuki's mind who his son was, as his son, that is to say the great fireball in the sky, was Boruto but was now Kawaki, and Boruto now had come into Kawaki's life, his son, and ruin it by killing his father, Kawaki is pretty much the angriest person in all of Konoha at Boruto. And thus we have two separate situations where Mitsuki was affected by Ada's charm Shinjutsu. And if hypothetically Mitsuki was part Otsutsuki, he probably shouldn't be affected by Ada's charm Shinjutsu. But we don't know that for certain. This theory kind of exists in limbo currently. See, because here's the problem. Toneri was the last surviving Otsutsuki on the moon, and the Otsutsuki had been there for thousands of years. See, Hamura had to move to the moon to keep an eye on his mother, who was sealed in the moon. However, because he didn't want to be lonely, he brought a couple hundred people up there with him and propagated an entire population of people living on the moon. However, unfortunately, after Hamura's death, these people split into two sides. People who believe that they should intervene on Earth, and the people who believe that they should let Earth be. What's weird about this, though, is that Hamura brought a bunch of humans with him. Or they might have appeared as though they were human, kind of like Indra and Ashura, because as we understand, a quarter Otsutsuki makes you look like a human. And while you may still have access to legendary amounts of power, you still have human skin and human eyes and all of that. Well, I guess you don't have human eyes. I guess it depends on whether or not you come from Indra or Ashura. You get it. And like 99.9% of all of the people that lived on the moon and fought on the war and the two warring factions looked like humans. And then enter Toneri. See, Toneri's actually been around since Hamura was alive. In one of the OG photos of Hamura and his clan on the moon, Hamura is shown having his hand on Toneri, which means we can't really use the line of logic that says that Toneri is the subject of many generations of washing the Otsutsuki blood out of his blood. Because if we use Indra and Ashura and all the other people on the moon as a template, if you are a quarter Otsutsuki, you look like a human. But Toneri does not look like a human. He has white skin, he has white hair, he was born with a Byakugan. Everything about him reads like an Otsutsuki of at least half Otsutsuki blood. How did that happen when the man who created all of the people that lived on the moon was only half Otsutsuki himself? Genuinely, no idea. Maybe him and Hagoromo did their best Island Boys impersonation and somehow Toneri came out. We just genuinely do not know. But this would mean that Toneri is probably somewhere in the range of at least half Otsutsuki. Which means if hypothetically Orochimaru was able to gather genetic material from Toneri and mix it with his own, that Mitsuki would be at most 25% Otsutsuki. Which, since there's no half Otsutsukis on Earth currently to use as a basis here, we don't know whether or not that would be enough Otsutsuki to truly be affected by Ada's brainwashing Shinjutsu or not. Now, if we had people like Indra and Ashura still existing on Earth who were canonically 25% Otsutsuki, we could be like, hey, did they fall for the Shinjutsu? And if they did, we could be like, okay, cool, Mitsuki's probably still in the clear. But since the only two people unaffected by Ada's brainwashing Shinjutsu were Kawaki and Boruto for non-I love Boruto reasons, and both of them are canonically 100% Otsutsufied, we can't really say what's going on with Kawaki currently. So while this theory isn't necessarily wrong, it's not looking great right now. But enough about Boruto, let's talk about Minato. See, much like with the release of Chapter 1 of Two Blue Vortex, before Minato's manga came out, I made a bunch of theories about what I believed the story was gonna be. And low-key, I kind of nailed it. I hypothesized that Minato would see a tailed beast bomb from an enemy village in Jinchuriki during the Second Great Shinobi World War because he became a chunin prior to the end of the Second Great Shinobi World War, and then he would use the expertise of seeing that tailed beast bomb to create a Rasengan that he would use to battle against those tailed beasts. And that is kind of where I went wrong. See, while I predicted exactly how Minato was going to come up with the idea for a Rasengan, I mean, it was basically told to us, and the timeline in which it would happen, I didn't exactly nail the reasoning of why Minato created the Rasengan in the first place. See, so far as I understood, Kushina during her entire reign as a Jinchuriki never manifested anything even resembling a Jinchuriki cloak. Whether that be a version 1, a version 2, heaven forbid a KCM mode, pretty much all that we had been told about Kushina as a Jinchuriki is that she had to find love in her life to balance out the hatred of Kurama. And thus I believe that Minato would create the Rasengan to battle against other Jinchuriki. And he kind of did. See, it was revealed to us during Minato's one-shot, which is very good. If you haven't read it yet, what are you doing? The reason that he created the Rasengan based off the tailed beast bomb aimed at him by Hanzo and Roshi from Iwa was because Minato saw that the escalation of war made other villages put their Jinchuriki on the front line. And Minato wanted Kushina, who didn't have the relationship with Kurama that apparently Han and Roshi had with their tailed beasts, to have a weapon that could battle against tailed beast bombs. That is to say that Minato technically didn't even make the Rasengan for himself. He made the Rasengan with the idea of keeping Kushina safe, which even though technically we never see him teach the Rasengan to Kushina, he does accomplish with the Rasengan. However, not in a battle against Han or Roshi, as Minato proceeds to use the Rasengan that he had just created in a battle inside of Kushina's 8-trigram seal, battling it out with Kurama after Kushina had manifested a version 2 Jinchuriki cloak. So while I nailed the timing and the mechanics of how Minato would create the Rasengan, I didn't nail the reason. But in the MLB, still be Hall of Fame numbers. Moving back to Boruto, let's talk about Himawari for a second. See, one of my favorite theories, and probably the one I put the most research into, is the theory that Himawari will awaken the Tenseigan. And I've actually been talking about this theory since the creation of this page. It's one of the first theory videos I ever released. And now that we're heading into the Boruto time skip here, I've doubled down on this theory. See, long before Daemon even identified Himawari as the only person in the village who gauged an actual threat to him, I had put 2 and 2 together that Himawari, for all intents and purposes, should be one of the most powerful people in Konoha, and thus Daemon identifying her as a threat above people like Boruto, Sasuke, and Naruto really bolstered the possibility of this theory being correct. However, there was one other theory that I floated out around Himawari, and that was that she was gonna fill a very Sasuke-like role in the time skip. See, Himawari has gone through something very similar to what Sasuke went through. Somebody who she saw as a brother, because mind you, Ada's brainwashing worked worked on her that's been corroborated by the first chapter of Two Blue Vortex, and thus she only saw Boruto as a brother while she believes that Kawaki is her real biological brother, killed a large swath of her family, being her father and her mother. Which puts Himawari in a very similar situation to Sasuke with Itachi, and thus I believe that Himawari would dedicate herself during the time skip to get stronger to enact revenge against Boruto, only to find out, just like Sasuke found out that Itachi wasn't truly evil, that Boruto wasn't truly evil. And so far, I was half right. We do see Himawari in chapter 1 of Two Blue Vortex, and she is dedicating herself to getting stronger, which is something that she actually really didn't do prior to the time skip, as one of the biggest plot points in Himawari's character development prior to the time skip is that she didn't know whether or not she wanted to become a ninja, because Himawari was raised in an era of peace where other job titles were just as prestigious, if not more prestigious, than being a shinobi. However, with the motivation of the fact that somebody that she let into her household killed her parents, she has now decided to get stronger, which might make you think,
Well then, Nick, your theory's sounding great.
and if that's all that we saw in regards to the Himawari, my theory would be sounding great. However, there is one problem. Himawari, while sparring against Chocho, expresses the fact that she doesn't believe that Boruto is as guilty as everybody paints him out to be. That is to say that Himawari has doubts that Boruto actually was responsible for killing Naruto and Hinata, which I guess technically doesn't confirm that she's been placed under Ada's brainwashing, as like I've said in my previous videos, whether or not Ada's brainwashing worked on Himawari actually doesn't matter all that much, because Himawari did consider Kawaki Naruto's son, an adoptive son in the family of the Uzumakis. So everybody referring to Kawaki as Naruto's son wouldn't be a crazy switch up to her. Not to mention, if Ada's brainwashing didn't work on Himawari, she was going to be living with Kawaki in a village where everybody believes that Boruto killed Naruto and Hinata. And so, like it or not, she would be indoctrinated to the ideology that Boruto was responsible for Naruto and Hinata's death. But more than likely, Ada's brainwashing worked on Himawari. But clearly not all that well, because she has doubts about Boruto's guilt, which actually might corroborate our theory that Himawari has Otsutsuki DNA running through her blood and therefore will awaken a Tenseiga, because the only people that we've seen either resist or doubt the memories implanted in their brain by Ada were Sarada and Sumire because they're in love with Boruto, Kawaki and Boruto because they're Otsutsukis, and Sasuke, who was willing to forego the memories implanted into his brain because he doubted them in the first place, and also because Sarada said they weren't true. And when you consider the fact that Sasuke has Hagoromo's chakra running through his veins to this day, he should have a slight resistance to Ada's Shinjutsu. And thus Himawari doubting the memories put into her brain might actually prove that she has Hagoromo and Hamura's chakra flooding through her veins. But if she has doubts about Boruto's guiltiness, she's probably not going to go on some long revenge tour where she tries to kill him. So while, just like with all the other theories, it's not entirely disproven, it's not looking great. Now, speaking of theories that I made in the advent of this page a long time ago, over a year ago, I made a theory speculating that Boruto would become a Jinchuriki. And honestly, while this isn't gonna happen, I stand by my line of logic here to this day. See, what's Boruto's biggest issue? The majority of you would probably say Momoshiki, and more specifically, Momoshiki taking over Boruto's body. But Momoshiki is only ever able to take over Boruto's body when he runs out of chakra. And in these moments, when Boruto doesn't have enough chakra to keep Momoshiki suppressed, Momoshiki is able to use his body like a vessel, which isn't great because when Momoshiki's in charge of the body, people like Kawaki get released or Sasuke gets stabbed in the eye. Pretty much nothing good comes out of it. And thus, in order to make sure that Momoshiki wouldn't take over Boruto's body, Boruto began popping pills. Pills designed by Amado to weaken the power of the Byakugan. Now, these pills were obviously created by Amado to weaken Otsutsuki, who all have Byakugan. And therefore, as Boruto began taking these pills, it weakened Momoshiki inside of him, making it so Momoshiki would have less opportunity to take over Boruto's body. Which, you know, like, good job, Amado, I guess. However, that wasn't the only solution. See, there's actually a lot of risk associated with these pills, as they're not tested and they're meant to weaken you. Not to mention that they weren't able to halt the Otsutsufication of Boruto's body. They only stopped Momoshiki taking over Boruto's body. And they didn't even do that perfectly. But if the problem that you're running into is that when Boruto runs out of chakra, Momoshiki takes over his body, why wouldn't we just make sure that Boruto never runs out of chakra? Every single tailed beast that's not dead is currently out and about, just running around. And well, sure, a lot of the tailed beasts never want to talk to humans ever again because they spent decades being highly abused and used as weapons, but some of the tailed beasts are really chill, like Son Goku and Isobu and Shukaku. And Boruto, in the anime canon, has a standing connection to Shukaku, who actually lives inside of a pot in Naruto's house. Yes, that's real. There's an entire arc about it in the anime canon. So if we wanted to make sure that Boruto never ran out of chakra, why wouldn't we make him a Jinchuriki? People who historically never run out of chakra. And I know what you're saying.
Well, Nick, if we put Shukaku in him, whenever he falls asleep, Shukaku will take over and destroy things.
Not anymore. He's cool now. This way, whenever Boruto runs out of chakra, he can tap into the chakra of the tailed beast living inside of him and suppress Momoshiki with that. Not to mention that the tailed beast would be able to disrupt Boruto's chakra and probably wake him up whenever Momoshiki tried to take control of his body. And sure, I can hear you saying,
Oh, but Nick, putting a tailed beast with Momoshiki is kind of furthering Momoshiki's goals of collecting all the tailed beasts, right?
doesn't really matter anymore. Kurama's dead. There's literally no way for Momoshiki to collect all 9 of the tailed beasts. One of them is gone, and it represented more than half of the 10 tails' original power. Sure, there is the possibility that the tailed beast wouldn't be able to suppress Momoshiki, and you'd just be giving Momoshiki more power to tap into when he took over Boruto's body, because Momoshiki can't really do all that much with Boruto as a vessel. That's why he had to absorb Naruto's chakra before he could even really battle against anybody as Borushiki. But I think there's a better than zero possibility that making Boruto a Jinchuriki makes it so that Momoshiki never breaks out of him again. And while it's definitely not gonna happen, I stand by it, but I definitely don't stand by all of my theories, which brings us to our last theory that I was incorrect about. Yes, the list is that short. And once again, this theory comes from the early days of my page, when I was young and hairless and had no idea what I was talking about. Because while I was knowledgeable about all things Naruto when I started this page, after spending 2 years talking about Naruto 3 times a week, you pick up a couple of things. And therefore, in the early days of this YouTube page, I theorized that Minato's mother was actually Tsunade, which is a very popular theory amongst the Naruto fandom. Definitely not one I made up. And as a theory, if you look at it in an incredibly base level, it kind of makes sense. Minato and Tsunade both have the same hair color. Tsunade had a lover named Dan and possibly had a secret relationship with Jiraiya. Minato comes from a no-name clan, the Namikaze, but is still one of the most powerful ninjas in Konoha's history, which could very easily be tied into the fact that he might be partially Senju. And not to mention, he's an incredible ninjutsu genius, capable of mastering things like flying Rasengan and creating the Rasengan. So him being tied to a ninjutsu genius in Tsunade would make a fair amount of sense. But unfortunately, that's just not the case. See, while there is technically a possibility that Tsunade could be Minato's mother, but now that I'm older, wiser, and more tired and have the entirety of the Naruto timeline seared into my brain, the most conservative estimates, that is to say, the oldest that Tsunade could have been in order to give birth to Minato, would have been 15, which, like I said, is a possibility. That's us just taking the upper range of Tsunade. In actuality, it's anywhere between 13 and 15 years old that Tsunade would have been around the time of Minato's birth, which once again is a possibility, but it's not one that I like. And thus I've actually addressed the fact that I no longer believe this theory, and I've actually parlayed this theory into a separate, more likely theory. That Tsunade isn't actually Minato's mother, but his cousin, or cousin first, I don't know, one of the cousins. As I actually now believe that Tobirama had a child who would then go on to have Minato. And since the Senju were trying to abandon their clan to stand in unity with Konoha as a whole, they adopted a fake name, or the name of their partner, which was Namikaze, and then gave birth to Minato under the name of Minato Namikaze, which would explain his massive chakra reserves, his ninjutsu genius, because he would come from Senju blood. And not just like any Senju blood, Tobirama's Senju blood, which would give him relation to Tsunade, which explains why they have similar hair color. And also, this theory doesn't include any child brides, which makes me feel better. And that's it. All of the theories that I've been incorrect about. Now, could I make a significantly longer video about all of the theories that I've been correct about? Absolutely, but I basically do that every single time one of my theories proves to be correct, so it would be redundant. However, we did just a couple of days ago post a video theorizing that Sasuke is dead, and chapter 1 of Two Blue Vortex has Code showing up with a scar in his eye, and then Boruto pulls up on Konoha without Sasuke. But what does he have? Sasuke's cloak and sword. So who scarred Code? Why didn't Sasuke come to Konoha? And why does Boruto have his stuff? Seems like we're gonna have another video made pretty soon here. Oh, it's a good day! But if you guys remember any of these theories or believe that there's still a possibility that some of these theories might be correct, tell me in the comments below. And while you guys are down there, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. Next video, takes that I used to have about the Naruto world that I no longer agree with, and there's actually a lot of them.